Karen yanked my daughter's hair in a cafe. She thought Ellie would cry, thought someone would defend her. What she didn't know was that Ellie has a black belt. 30 seconds later, Karen was face down on the tile floor, screaming for help that no one gave her. The real knockout wasn't the throw, it was what happened 2 minutes later when the HOA treasurer stood up. They say trouble always arrives when you're least prepared for it. For me and Ellie, that day started like any other, calm, almost tender. We parked the car under the shade of the old sycamore tree beside Marlowe Café, the spot we called our thinking nest. It was a quiet place nestled between tall glass condos and HOA patrolled sidewalks. I liked it because no one ever bothered us there. Ellie liked it because they made the best almond croissants in town. She was wearing her gray hoodie, sleeves tugged over her hands the way she always did when she was feeling focused. Her laptop bag bounced gently against her hip, and I noticed a fresh scrape on her knuckle, judo training again. She probably didn't tell me because she didn't want to worry me. I didn't ask. We've always had that kind of trust, unspoken, solid. Inside, the cafe breathed warmth with the smell of cinnamon and jazz music floating in the air. The baristas knew us by name. We took our usual corner booth. Ellie pulled out her chemistry notes while I sipped a dark roast and admired the brief silence of peace. If I had known what was about to happen, if I had known that Karen, the tyrant queen of our HOA, would walk in 15 minutes later like she owned the air we breathed, I might have chosen a different table or left altogether. Or maybe not. Sometimes the storm needs to come. Sometimes a lesson needs to be taught, not by a parent, but by a child. That day, my daughter was ready to teach. She just didn't know it yet. 15 minutes. That's how long it took for the atmosphere to shift from peace to pressure. Ellie was solving stoichiometry problems, tapping her pencil rhythmically. Her brow was furrowed in focused silence. I had just taken my second sip of coffee when the cafe door opened with that soft ding. I didn't even look up, not until I heard the click of heels sharp, measured, entitled. Then came the voice, "Excuse me, excuse me. Can someone clean this table? There's a fingerprint on my glass." I froze. That tone, falsely polite, cold as dry ice, curled around the back of my neck like static. I turned slowly. There she was, Karen. Platinum bob, oversized sunglasses that belonged at a movie premiere, not a cafe. White blazer, skin-tight pencil skirt, heels sharp enough to puncture concrete. And that expression, lips pinched, eyes scanning the room like she was auditing the IRS. A young barista, maybe 19, scrambled to wipe her table. Karen snapped her fingers. "Use a fresh cloth. That one smells like soap." I clenched my jaw. This woman had been a parasite in our lives for over a year, levying absurd HOA fines, banning chalk drawings on sidewalks, dictating the color of welcome mats. Once, she cited Ellie for unsanctioned athletic behavior after she did cartwheels on the lawn. She didn't enforce rules, she weaponized them. Ellie glanced up, her eyes narrowing. "Is that her?" I nodded once. Karen strutted past us, didn't even glance our way until she caught sight of Ellie's phone propped up on a stand. That was it. One glance, one flicker of recognition in her eyes. Then she stopped. "Excuse me," she said, her voice sweet as venom. "Is that camera pointed at me?" Ellie blinked. "No, I'm filming my homework notes." Karen scoffed. And made jam. Her gaze hardened. "You're not authorized to film inside this cafe. I'm a private resident. I have a right to control my image." I leaned forward. "She's not filming you. Sit down." Her head whipped toward me like a snake sensing heat. "And you are." I smiled, sharp and unfriendly. "The man who's tired of your nonsense." Karen's face twitched. She drew herself up like a swan on a battlefield. "You people think you can just show up and record the world? No, that's not how we do things here. This is a controlled community." I stood. "This is a public cafe, Karen. And unless you're about to order something besides a tantrum, I suggest you keep walking." The entire cafe went still. Her eyes flicked from me to Ellie, then back. Something cracked in her gaze, pride, fear, or the prelude to a meltdown. She didn't walk away, she stepped forward, and that's when the real trouble began. She raised her hand, and that's when everything changed. If you're ready to see what happens when a Karen crosses the wrong family, comment the number 7 and let's keep going. She didn't just step forward. She charged. The heels clicked faster, slicing through the quiet air. Her fingers curled into claws, eyes locked on Ellie like a predator spotting prey. For a moment, I thought she'd just lecture more, fling a few empty threats, but then she reached out fast, without warning, and snatched the phone off Ellie's stand. Hey, Ellie barked, rising halfway out of her seat. Karen clutched the phone like it was stolen property. Confiscated. For evidence. I stood up fully. Put it down. She ignored me. Let's just see what you were filming, sweetheart. Karen sneered as she began fumbling with the screen. That was when Ellie reached for her phone, and that was when Karen snapped. With a vicious movement, she grabbed a handful of Ellie's hair and yanked her backward. The chair screeched across the floor. Ellie gasped in pain, her arms flailing for balance. Don't touch me, she shouted, trying to break free. Don't you dare raise your voice to me, Karen roared, towering over her, driving her half out of her seat by the hair. You disrespectful little thug. The cafe erupted. A mug shattered. Someone screamed. A barista dropped a tray of cups, and I moved. I lunged over the table, snatched Karen's wrist in a grip of iron, and ripped her hand away from my daughter's head. Let go of her, I thundered, slamming Karen's arm down against the table so hard her bangles snapped. She stumbled back, red-faced, gasping, hair wild, and mouth twisted. You don't lay a single finger on my daughter, I growled. Not now. Not ever. Karen reeled but didn't back off. She puffed up like a wet cat, straightened her blazer, and pointed directly at Ellie. She assaulted me first. That's assault on a community official. I'm calling the HOA board. I stepped forward, eyes burning. You just physically attacked a 14-year-old girl in front of 20 witnesses and 3 cameras. You can call whoever the hell you want, but your career, reputation, and your power trip, they all just died right here in this cafe. Karen looked around and, for the first time, noticed the eyes. Everyone was staring, phones lifted, cameras already rolling. And Ellie, she was standing now, silent, still, her breath steady, stance low, and in her eyes, not fear, but calculation. Karen didn't know it yet, but she'd just picked a fight she couldn't win. And Ellie was about to show her exactly who she had messed with. Karen was still ranting, waving her hands like she was commanding troops, spit flying from her lips. I want this girl arrested. I want her expelled from every school in the district. She assaulted me and I. She never finished that sentence because Ellie moved. Not with rage, not with panic, but with precision, with training. She stepped forward, fluid, low, and fast. Her left foot slid diagonally while her right knee dipped, grounding her center of gravity. Before Karen even realized the threat, Ellie's hands gripped her arm, pivoted her body sideways, and wham. She flipped Karen clean over her shoulder. The cafe gasped. Karen's body crashed onto the floor with a sickening thud. The impact rattled the silverware on nearby tables. Her head bounced once on the tile before slamming still. Her legs flailed for a second, then dropped limp like a broken mannequin. Silence, total, stunned silence. Ellie stood over her, panting once. She adjusted her stance, eyes cold. Her hands were loose, relaxed, not clenched. She didn't gloat. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The message was loud enough. I stood frozen for a second, then stepped forward slowly, deliberately, like a storm cloud creeping in. Karen groaned beneath us. Her lipstick was smeared halfway across her face. Her sunglasses were shattered beneath her hip. The pristine white blazer now had a coffee stain across the back, and one heel had snapped completely off her shoe. She looked like a wreck, and for once, she knew it. I crouched beside her, close enough for only her to hear. You just got floored by a 14-year-old girl in front of a room full of witnesses. I whispered, "Do yourself a favor, Karen, and stay down." She whimpered something unintelligible, clutching her side. Someone from the counter whispered, "Oh my God." Another voice followed. Did she just judo throw the HOA president? And then slowly, like applause after a knockout punch, clapping. One table started, then another, then the baristas and the entire cafe. The room erupted in cheers, laughter, and disbelief. Karen didn't get up. Ellie turned back to me, eyes wide but steady. I exhaled. The adrenaline hit like a freight train, and my hands were shaking, but not from fear, from awe. That was my daughter. And in 30 flawless seconds, she had done what no lawsuit, no petition, no HOA meeting ever could. She broke Karen. Karen didn't move. She lay sprawled on the cold tile floor, gasping like a landed fish, hair stuck to her cheek, blazer twisted halfway off her shoulder like a straitjacket. One of her earrings had come loose and rolled under the nearest table. Nobody offered to pick it up. Nobody offered to help her at all. I stepped forward and looked down at her from above. My voice dropped to something low, deadly, steady. You want to file a report? Go ahead. But you're going to need a real story because the one you just acted out won't sell anymore. Karen's mouth opened, but only a rasp came out. Her authority, her arrogance, it was bleeding out faster than her dignity. She looked up at me, red-faced, defeated. And then slowly, her eyes shifted to Ellie. Ellie, still standing, still calm. She didn't gloat. She didn't flinch. She just tilted her head slightly, studying Karen like a puzzle she'd already solved. Then finally, she spoke. Her voice was cool, measured, final. She's lucky I held back. That one sentence broke the room. The crowd gasped. Some left. Others covered their mouths. Phones were still recording. The barista behind the counter whispered, "Oh my God, she could have done more." Karen scrambled, suddenly aware of her surroundings again. "Delete those videos," she barked, pointing at the cameras. That was an attack, a violent, calculated. I cut her off hard. "No, Karen. That was self-defense, and you earned every inch of that floor burn." Her lip trembled. Behind us, the cafe owner appeared, arms folded, expression unreadable. "I've reviewed the camera feed," he said evenly. "You laid hands on a minor without provocation. You're banned indefinitely from this business and every other property I manage. Try to return, and the police will be called." "Understood." Karen blinked, stunned. "You can't do that." "I just did," he replied. People were filming all of it. She turned and saw it, dozens of phones raised, capturing her humiliation from every angle. And in that moment, something inside her finally cracked. Karen tried to rise. Her heel slipped. She collapsed again with a grunt. No one moved to help. Ellie stepped forward, knelt down slowly, looked Karen in the eye, and picked up her own phone from the ground, calm, silent, steady. She turned to me. "Can we go now?" I nodded. As we walked toward the exit, the crowd parted. Some clapped Ellie on the shoulder. Others whispered her name. And Karen, she stayed on the floor, her throne of power reduced to tile and spilled milk. We didn't look back. As Ellie and I pushed open the cafe doors, sunlight hit our faces like a curtain lifting on a final act. The door swung shut behind us, and with it, Karen's reign ended not with a bang, but with a broken heel and a bruised ego. But inside, she still refused to fall with grace. "Someone call security," she screeched, scrambling on all fours like a drunk deer, trying to grab her purse. Her voice cracked, desperate and shrill. "This is a setup. They planned this." Nobody moved. The baristas exchanged glances. A mother nearby shielded her toddler's eyes and pulled her away. Karen tried to rise again and slipped again. Her blazer caught the edge of a table leg and tore with an ugly rip. A burst of laughter rippled through the room. That was it. Her mask shattered. "I am the head of the HOA," she shrieked, spitting each word like venom. "You'll all regret this." But her voice didn't carry anymore. It didn't silence the room like it used to. It didn't make anyone flinch because now she just looked pitiful. And then came the moment that sealed it. From the back of the cafe, an older woman stood, gray hair, firm jaw, HOA badge still clipped to her purse. "Karen," she said loudly, "this is the third time this month you've been reported for aggression." Karen froze. The woman stepped forward. "I warned you about yelling at my grandson last week. I let it go. But what you did to that girl just now," she shook her head. "I think it's time we vote on your position." Karen stammered. "You can't. You don't have the authority." "I do," the woman snapped. "I'm the treasurer." Silence. Then from somewhere in the cafe, finally, Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again, like a fish gasping for air in a room no longer hers. I leaned over to the woman. "I've got the entire thing recorded. 3 angles. You'll have everything you need by sundown." She nodded once. "Thank you." Karen tried to speak again, but the moment had already left her behind. Power doesn't disappear in a flash. It leaks slow and humiliating. Hers was bleeding out all over the tile. As Ellie and I walked down the sidewalk, we heard the woman say one last thing before the door swung closed. "Karen, you're not feared anymore. You're just embarrassing." I smiled because finally everyone else saw what we had always known. She wasn't powerful. She wasn't a leader. She was a bully. And now she was finished. By the time we got home, the video had already been shared in 3 HOA group chats. By nightfall, it was everywhere. One clip showed Karen grabbing Ellie's hair. Another captured the perfect, clean judo throw. A third, filmed from behind the bar, caught Karen crumpled on the floor, screaming for help that never came. The captions were brutal. HOA queen meets her match. Spoiler, it's a 14-year-old girl. Judo justice in a latte lounge. Karen gets tossed like her rules. Within an hour, our community group chat exploded. People I hadn't heard from in months were messaging me directly. "Is that really your daughter? That was incredible. Do you have the full footage? The HOA needs to see it. I never liked that woman. She fined me $200 for putting a plant on my porch." One message stood out from a neighbor named Carlos. "I'll call the emergency HOA board meeting myself." "This ends now." I turned to Ellie, who was calmly finishing her math homework like none of this had happened. "You okay?" I asked. She looked up, blinked once, and said, "She touched my hair. No one touches my hair." I almost laughed, but didn't. Instead, I forwarded the footage to the HOA board, the cafe owner, and the local parenting forum. I didn't need to say anything. The video spoke for itself. That night, I scrolled through the comments, hundreds of them. Some cheered. Some condemned Karen's behavior. But what hit hardest were the stories. People started coming out of the woodwork. She yelled at my autistic son for humming on the sidewalk. She reported my daughter for suspicious dancing at the park. She made me cry in front of my kids for painting our mailbox beige. Story after story. Ellie's throw hadn't just gone viral. It had ripped the tape off a decade of silent bullying, and the momentum kept building. At 10:43 p.m., the HOA treasurer posted in the official community bulletin. Effective immediately, a vote of removal has been scheduled. The board has received multiple first-hand video accounts of today's assault, and the behavior of Chairwoman Karen H., both past and present, is under formal review. Then she added bluntly, the HOA does not condone violence, abuse of authority, or public embarrassment. Karen brought us all 3 in one day. It was signed and timestamped. The cracks became a collapse. Karen had ruled by fear, but fear only works when people are silent. Now they were speaking louder than ever. And Ellie, she was already asleep. By noon the next day, Karen was done pretending, but she hadn't surrendered, not yet. Bullies rarely do. Instead, she marched into the HOA office, sunglasses on, chin high, flanked by two aging board members who still thought power was a purse you could carry and swing. She stormed past the receptionist, slammed her purse onto the long oak meeting table, and barked, "This is a smear campaign." That video was edited. That girl attacked me. I was defending myself. The room didn't flinch. The treasurer, calm and deliberate, tapped a finger on a stack of printed screenshots, dozens of resident complaints, time-stamped, documented, backed by video and witness accounts. "I've never laid hands on anyone," Karen snapped. A barista's affidavit said otherwise. "I've served this community for years and abused it for just as long." When she saw the full footage played back, unedited, crystal clear, with her face contorted in rage as she grabbed Ellie's hair, Karen's facade finally wavered. "You can't vote me out." She tried again, weaker. "There's protocol. There's precedent." The treasurer said flatly, and a clause in the bylaws about public misconduct. At 12:47 p.m., the board voted 7-0, unanimous. Karen was removed as HOA chairwoman, effective immediately. Her face went slack, then red, purple with rage. She stood, pointed across the room, and hissed, "You're all sheep. You let a child embarrass you. That little brat won't be a hero for long. She'll be expelled, blacklisted. I'll make sure of it." "She's already 10 times the leader you ever were," the treasurer shot back. "And by the way, she's not expelled." That afternoon, I got the email. Subject line: Recommendation, LEM, Junior Judo League Scholarship Invite. The local athletics board had seen the footage. They weren't just impressed, they were inspired. One line stood out: composure under pressure, control without cruelty, precision without ego. That's the kind of discipline we dream of in future athletes. Ellie read the email silently, then set the phone down. "I didn't do it for a scholarship," she said. I looked at her, my quiet, steel-spined daughter, and replied, "That's exactly why you deserve it." By dinner, Karen's name was trending locally. The clip had been picked up by a regional news outlet. They blurred Ellie's face and protected her identity, but the story ran like wildfire. HOA president fired after assaulting team taken down in Café confrontation. Even strangers from out of state chimed in. She thought she could grab a kid and walk away from it. Not anymore. This is what happens when people finally stand up to unchecked power. And my favorite comment: never underestimate a girl in a hoodie, ever. But the most telling moment came that evening when I stopped by the mailbox. Karen was standing on the curb alone, waiting for her car to arrive. Her eyes were bloodshot behind oversized shades. Her hands trembled as she tried to light a cigarette and failed twice. She saw me, straightened. "I hope you're proud," she spat. "You humiliated me." I walked up slowly, calmly, and said, "You did that to yourself." Then I added, quieter, "But Ellie, she stopped you." Karen didn't reply. Her Uber pulled up. She climbed in without a word. As it drove off, I realized something. She wasn't just leaving a neighborhood. She was leaving behind the illusion that her cruelty made her powerful. And Ellie, she didn't even know she'd started a revolution. The next morning, Ellie woke up like it was any other day. She brushed her teeth, tied her hoodie tight, and packed her school bag with the same quiet rhythm she always did. No talk of the videos, no mention of Karen. You'd never guess the girl who flipped a tyrant onto a cafe floor just 24 hours ago had also remembered to pack her graphing calculator. We sat in the car, waiting for the traffic to clear. She glanced at me once and said, "Is it over?" I gripped the steering wheel and nodded. For her? Yeah. For us? Probably just beginning. She didn't look scared, just thoughtful. Then she asked something that stuck with me. Did I go too far? I paused, Thought about it, the cameras, the looks, the force, the silence after. No, I said. You went exactly far enough. She looked out the window and whispered, I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted her to stop. And that was it. That was the difference. Karen ruled by fear. Ellie stood by restraint. One craved control, the other earned it. Later that day, a letter was taped to our door, handwritten, neat cursive, no signature. Thank you, she yelled at my daughter for humming last spring. Your kid did what the rest of us were too afraid to. Tell her she gave us all permission to breathe again. I folded the note and tucked it into my wallet not because I needed it, but one day when Ellie was older, I'd show it to her, remind her of what real strength looks like, of what she chose to do. People think justice is loud, that it marches or yells or breaks things. But sometimes justice wears a hoodie, keeps her head down, and knows exactly when to strike. That was my daughter. And no matter what came next, Karen was finished. Ellie was just getting started. Sometimes justice doesn't wear a badge. It doesn't yell. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't break windows or throw fists just to be heard. Sometimes justice wears a hoodie, keeps her head down, and only speaks when the moment truly demands it. That was my daughter. And what happened in that cafe wasn't just a takedown. It was a turning point, not just for her, not just for me, but for everyone who had ever been pushed, silenced, or told to stay in their place by someone with a clipboard and a fake crown. Karen wasn't powerful because she had authority. She was powerful because people were too tired, afraid, or too polite to push back. But the second someone stood up, not out of rage, but out of principled control, her power collapsed like wet paper. And here's the truth that stuck with me. There will always be Karens, people who bully behind titles, people who mistake fear for respect. But there will also always be Ellies, quiet, thoughtful, disciplined souls who don't want to fight but will end one when pushed too far. We live in a world where too many people think being louder makes them right, where intimidation is mistaken for leadership, where abusing power is normalized. But maybe just one calm, decisive act can shake an entire system. So, what's the takeaway? If you're a parent, teach your kids to be strong not in volume, but in values. If you're a kid, know that your worth is never defined by someone else's anger. And if you're ever faced with injustice, no matter how small, remember, you don't have to scream or fight back. You just have to stand firm and know exactly when to move. Because sometimes the quietest ones are the most dangerous to injustice. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced someone like Karen? Someone who thought they were untouchable until the day they weren't? Drop a 7 in the comments if you've ever wanted to stand up to someone like that. Better yet, share your story. You never know who it might inspire. And if this video hit home for you, if you felt that rush of justice when Karen hit the floor, or that quiet pride when Ellie walked out with her head high, hit that like button. Subscribe for more real stories where underdogs rise and abusers fall. And don't forget to ring the bell so you don't miss the next time karma comes calling. Because in this world full of noise, sometimes the strongest voice is the one that waits, stays calm, and lands the cleanest throw.